You're listening to Inside Kansas Athletics with Floodman and Gurley on KJHK and KUathletics.com as part of the Jayhawk Radio Network. And now your hosts, former KU linebacker Banks Floodman and former KU guard Greg Gurley.
Welcome to episode 2 of Inside Kansas Athletics with Floodman and Gurley. I'm going to try to do a little more talking this week. Old Gurley here took over the show last week, showing off his superior and really well-honed media skills. And so this week what we'll do is we'll talk a little football, kind of where we're going, what we're doing, go through some of the games of the past and games of the future, talk a little bit about some of the stars stepping up on that playing surface, and then we'll get into basketball, talk a little 60th, and then go into some of the details of the season and get Gurley's take on kind of the first game and some of the players that stood out to him. So let's talk a little football. What do you think? We got a big game this weekend against Iowa State. We got the former ball coach coming back, which I think is adding a little bit of juice to this to the game. But I think you would agree our boys got a chance this weekend, and it's been interesting to see our team on campus. You can tell they're focused and they're working hard. I know Coach Bowen's got these boys as ready as he possibly can to go out against Iowa State on Saturday and try to get the University of Kansas a big football win.
Yeah, and it's been about a month since we've had a home game. Been gone, had the bye week, and then we're down in Baylor last week, so it's good to get the boys back home and get Clint back out there against your old coach. Mark Mangino will be back in town for the first time, and so 2:30 on Saturday. It's going to be. Hopefully we get a nice crowd because these guys deserve it. They're working so hard, and Clint's really got them playing with a different energy and passion. And this is a game that you hate to just as you look through the schedule. This is an Iowa State team that's struggling, and it's somebody that I think that we can definitely get a much needed W that Clint needs, that this entire fan base needs.
I completely agree with you. I think one question that I've been getting a lot is Coach Bowen a player's coach? And I think the term player's coach, that depends. I mean, the players love him, the players want to play for him, but he pushes them. I think there's players coaches that don't necessarily push their teams like they should. I think Coach Bowen is a guy that's a hard-nosed former football player, gets it. But you can see that the players on the field have stepped it up a notch or two, and there's an additional passion there that maybe there wasn't there before. But these kids want to get a W for Coach Bowen, and being a Kansas guy and a former football player, and he understands the formula, like he said in his initial press conference. He gets it. He understands what it takes to win here at Kansas, and we're rooting for him. And I think with these players and the passion that they have, and that it all stems from Coach Bowen. So if that makes him, considered a player's coach, that's him.
Well, and the thing you got to be careful about, like you said, with a player's coach is there's three things that you need to accomplish as a coach, and very few guys can pull it off. And that's to be feared, loved, and respected. And it's, I think Coach Self has it. I think a few other the most successful guys have it, and I think Clint's a guy that I think can have all of those attributes. And it's one thing to be a player's coach and everybody loves you, but when you really need to kick them in the butt and get them going, they don't. It's harder to do when you're kind of buddy with them. So be careful what you ask for to a degree on a player's coach, because there are definitely several attributes that go along with that. And Clint is not a flashy guy. I mean, he's a no nonsense, get down to it type of guy, and I think he's got all the opportunity to become that guy.
The one guy that pops in my head when I think players coach is a coach we had here a few years back. Bill Young was our D coordinator, and he was one of those guys that had that switch. On the field he was tough, hard-nosed. He demanded respect and perfection and work ethic and all the intangibles that it takes to be successful. But he had that switch when kind of like Coach Self has. When you're outside off the field or off the court, whatever it may be, you build guys up and you befriend guys. And I think long term and even short term, that makes players want to play harder for you. You earn their respect. And as a coach, I mean, you get guys playing in unison like I think that this team has the capabilities of doing. Hell, you don't know what can happen. You can beat anybody any given week. These are all 18 to 22-year-old kids that if you play together and play as one, you can do some pretty spectacular things.
Well, now that we're into November, obviously Iowa State here this weekend, and then the Big 12 is a really difficult conference to come back in and get those victories. That's why we do point to this Saturday where we need a big crowd and get out and support our guys, because the following week you play TCU. They're in the top 10. The new ranking just came out, and they are good. They are fast. They are deep. They're everything that a top 10 team would be. And then you got to travel to Oklahoma and then to in-state rival K-State over Thanksgiving weekend. So you really got to point to this weekend to build something, to get that victory and build a little momentum going into those final 3 games.
No doubt about it, Greg. And you said it best. This week is the game. This is the only focus right now for this team. And so if you're one of the millions of people listening to this podcast, millions, get your tickets, get there on Saturday. It's supposed to be nice. There's no excuse with game time. It's a perfect game time. We all want to get that Memorial Stadium pregame atmosphere back. Let's get it started and let's get it right. And when this team plays, when any team plays, I mean, they feed off the crowd and the energy that the crowd provides for the players, and filling that stadium is going to be a huge factor this Saturday. So I'd love to see a nice packed Memorial on a Saturday early afternoon, and see our boys go out and get a W for a lot of the guys that have been here for 3 or 4 years, working their tails off. You got Ben Heaney's of the world, Jake Loves. I mean, those guys deserve a big time win on Memorial Stadium turf, and seeing the fans and the team celebrate together is what it's all about. But we'd definitely love to see everybody out there on Saturday.
Now, let's get back to Inside Kansas Athletics with Floodman and Gurley.
All right, back to the Floodman and Gurley Inside Athletics show. All season ticket holders should have received an email. We're doing something exciting this year. We're going out with a loyalty pricing for Kansas football tickets next year. You'll get all 7 games next season for the price of 6. We're doing that for a lot of reasons. We're doing it, to get our fan base understanding that we're going to think about football in that stadium and filling that stadium earlier rather than later. And B, we've been very fortunate. We've got some great sales staff individuals that are going to be out getting those season tickets sold. So you as a fan, when you're always at the stadium, you're going to have a lot of other KU Jayhawks with you to help that atmosphere as much as possible. So definitely by joining the Williams Fund, it'll get you some priority seating. The deadline you'll have until January 18th for that loyalty pricing. So the next couple months, I know that I would love a nice season football ticket. My stocking is a nice stocking stuffer, so definitely maybe something you should consider for the holidays and as we approach Thanksgiving and Christmas and all that good stuff. We've also got Williams Fund members. You do get priority for advanced GA sales to men's basketball games. So if you order GA by December 9th, you'll have the opportunity for GA tickets to UNLV, Texas Tech, Okie State, Oklahoma, and K-State. So just one of the many benefits of supporting our student athletes and joining the Williams Fund is getting those season football tickets in a great location and hopping on those GA basketball tickets early before the general public. So we got a lot of stuff going on right now, Greg. It's a fun time in our athletic department.
It is, and when we come back, we'll go over basketball, the 60-year celebration, the first exhibition game against the Washburn Ichabods, got an upcoming game against Emporia State in the 2-game exhibition season, and then we kick it off for real next Friday. So we will go over all things Kansas and all things basketball when we come back.
Now, let's get back to Inside Kansas Athletics with Floodman and Gurley.
We're back here on the Floodman and Gurley Inside Athletics show. Let's talk a little bit about last Monday. We had the 60-year celebration of this iconic building that we all work in every day, which we're so fortunate to be a part of. It was such a great event. It was something that was put on by athletics and the Assist Foundation. The Assist Foundation is Bill and Cindy Self's family foundation that they started 10 plus years ago, and it's got all 4 of the living coaches. There's only been 8 coaches in the history of Kansas basketball, 4 of which are still with us: Ted Owens, Larry Brown, Roy Williams, and Bill Self. They all all their schedules got worked out. They all came back, and it was one of the best nights in the history of this storied structure. I wrote down some notes here on, how would we grade the coach presenter performances, and we go through them. We started the evening off. First of all, Jay Billis was the MC, who is a Duke guy, but he's kind of the voice of college basketball. He's just a great voice, and he's smart, and he gets it. He can really convey his thoughts well, and he was perfect. He honored this building. You wouldn't even have known that he didn't go here. He did an unbelievable job. And then he had Gary Padgett, who was a donor of ours, who was a student athlete of ours, played in the first game here in Allen Fieldhouse back in 1955. And I thought Banks, as Williams Fund guys, I thought one of the coolest things he talked about, he thought it was an honor, number one, to be chosen to speak at this deal, but he said one of his greatest feelings is having the ability to give to this great university and athletic department, to give to this program as a donor. I mean, he looked at that, and we need more people like him that look at it as a privilege in order to give back.
You're exactly right, Greg. There's nothing better than finding a former student athlete that understands the importance of giving back, and fortunately a lot of individuals' careers when they were here as a student athlete, they were able to benefit significantly from their time here at the University of Kansas, and for people to understand that and give back and show their support for this great university and its athletic department is a lot of fun, and really is why we're in the profession we are. That's what it's all about. We've been very, very fortunate from both former student athletes giving back and our alumni just giving back, whether a former student athlete or not. This last year, as we've had quite a few different endeavors this year, and we've been fortunately successful with a lot of those, and that's all attributed to the support of a lot of our student athletes and what they're doing on the field, and ultimately all of our donors. And because we understand it, we are in a position where tuition and everything else is getting a little more expensive, and we rely more and more heavily on our donor base, and guys like Mr. Padgett and everybody else step up year in and year out.
Tuition's getting more expensive, and the help we get from the state and everything is dwindling as well. So everything's working against us, and the Gary Padgetts of the world are so much more important as we move forward. Which coach had the best speech, or which presenter was the best? I mean, Bud Stallworth introduced Ted Owens, and he was great, and Chris Piper, who does the Jayhawks Television Network, former color analyst of the radio network, he was awesome introducing Larry Brown. And then the guy that we were a little bit nervous, or I wasn't, because I knew he'd do a great job, but you never know what you're going to get with Scott. Scott Pollard introduced Roy Williams, and he didn't really have a good idea of what he was going to talk about, and he absolutely nailed it. He did a couple of Roy impressions. He talked about how he would all the money that he's made and the NBA championship ring that he was able to earn, that he would give all that up to have another year to play for that man. So I thought that was very cool. And then Tyrell Reed, such a model student athlete here at Kansas, both on and off the court, introduced Bill Self. And then as far as the speeches go, I thought Ted Owens was great. Ted Owens is 85 years old. He was here for 19 years. His speech was so good. You could tell how much he understands how important this program is. Not how important he is, and that was the one thing I did take away from all that. None of the guys talked about how important they were or they are. They talked about the program, and that's what I don't think you get that a lot of places. The program here is definitely bigger than all the former coaches and players, and that's not the case everywhere. And another thing we wrote down here was our fans finally warming up to Roy Williams, and my short answer is yes. I mean, it was a cool event. As for anybody of those four, it was great for Coach Williams to come back. He was well received. He had a blast while he was here. He's only here about 24 hours, but he hadn't really been back. He's been to Lawrence, but he's never really been around Allen Fieldhouse and all the changes that we've made. And I was able to walk around with him for an hour and show him everything that had been done, and he was just taken aback by how cool it is. We all see, most people see what Allen Fieldhouse is at a game. Few of us are fortunate enough to see the locker room and the players' lounge and all the practice gyms and everything that are back there that just adds to this cool building.
Greg, you mentioned Ted Owens, and I hadn't had the opportunity to meet Coach Owens prior to this event, but seeing how well he was prepared and how well spoken he was at 85 years old, I tell you, I was blown away. And you can see he still's got those competitive juices flowing. It was kind of fun to see someone like that up there and be so appreciative and grateful to have the opportunity to get up there. And like you said, it was refreshing to see in a day and age where I think it's all about egos from time to time. All four coaches of that stature to stand up and talk about how it's humbling to be in their positions and kind of be the individual that's just taking care of the program right now, because it's no one coach is bigger than this program, and that's what's so awesome about the history we have here at the University of Kansas in our basketball program. One of the things we have here is the biggest takeaway from the event. I think that this was such a fun, unique event because we had no idea what to expect going into it. We had two individuals, Jen Ali, who works at our marketing office, and Megan McMullen, who works in the Williams Fund with us, that spent a lot of time and effort on making this event happen. And I think it was the way that it was set up, the way that they were able to put everything together was absolutely perfect. There's events we go to, and we have a lot of them, but there's some events that go 3.5 hours, and you're going, man, when is this thing going to get over? But I tell you, I looked at my watch, and it was already 10 o'clock and 3 hours into the event, and I felt like I'd been there only about an hour. It's just, when you have an event like that where time flies by and you just want to soak up and enjoy the moment, and I know the coaches were supposed to have a 10-minute 10 minutes apiece, and I think everybody was extremely happy that they went on for 15, 20, 25 in some situations. So it was an unbelievable event. But the biggest takeaway I would have to say just is seeing those four coaches interact together and how appreciative and grateful they are to have been a part of Kansas basketball, and that was humbling to see and a lot of fun.
Well, you talked about the time of the event. Bill's very big on, at the end of the year when we do the senior speeches, he just drills it into his guys that they only got 5 minutes or 8 minutes or whatever, and they never end up doing it. And he's always so concerned about other people, is this too long or not? I don't think there was anybody in the stands that even noticed that it was 3 hours long because it was so cool. So the other big takeaway I take from the event, we just talked to Bill about this, roughly $500,000 was raised by doing this event. Kansas Athletics put their best foot forward in staffing it and just all the logistics that go into such a big event where roughly 7,000 people showed up. 80 tables on the floor, from the flooring to the video to the transportation to the hotels. Kansas Athletics really did an unbelievable job and didn't receive a dime of the proceeds. It was all done for charity. The coaches that came were given money to their charity of choice, and then the large majority of it stays right here in this area, in the Lawrence, Kansas City region. So that was a great event for everyone to get a piece of those guys, and then also to help out our community. And it's something that's not going to be, you'll never be able to do that again, because if you did it next year, it'd be too soon. Who knows what'll happen 10 years from now if you could even do it. So that was truly a once in a long while type of situation.
We'll take a little break here and come back, talk a little bit about basketball, talk a little bit about the Washburn game. But again, if you weren't able to attend the 60th reunion for whatever reason, and when we talked about the 60 years now in Fieldhouse, that there will be a DVD that comes out. The objective is to get that on the shelves mid-November. It may get pushed back a little bit, but KUstore.com is going to have a lot of those.
To take you through it, number one, there'll be a DVD that'll be for sale come the end of November. Once they get it all together, there's going to be kind of pre-event interviews that were done by Bob Davis and myself. There'll be the event, the videos will be included in the DVD, and I think there's some post-event comments from a few people. So it's going to be a really cool stocking stuffer that will be offered. So continuously check in with Kansas Athletics and KUStore.com to look for when that becomes available to purchase. It'll be I think they're going to produce at least 5,000 of those. So get them, be ready for them.
So you'll be able to see kind of what went on and enjoy the moment and celebrate this Kansas basketball program. But we'll be right back.
Now, let's get back to Inside Kansas Athletics with Floodman and Gurley.
Well, let's talk a little bit about soccer. How about those that are women's soccer team? 15-4 this season. Looks like Rock Chalk Park is creating the home field advantage that we anticipated it could. They start to the Big 12 tournament play. Hoping they'll roll through that. They got Oklahoma tonight at 8 o'clock. So we're cheering on our women's soccer team. But how about them? They've been playing pretty well this year.
Yeah, they're the third seed, and by the time this gets posted, we'll know the outcome of that game. But look for our gals to have a really good opportunity in Kansas City to win this Big 12 tournament. They've had, 15-4, and a couple of their losses were 1-0 losses in that one weekend a few weeks ago. So they have Mark Francis has really done a nice job, and it's perfect timing with the opening of Rock Chalk Park, and now you get a year under your belt out there, and you get a year recruiting. You think about how nice it'll be for him to go out and bring girls in from across the country and say, hey, this is where we play. And as you look around the country, there's not many facilities like this, and girls are going to want to come here. And then it's a good problem to have when you might have too many girls that want to come, and you get to kind of pick the best. And then also we'd be remiss not to talk about Ray Bouchard and Kansas volleyball. They've struggled a little bit of late. They're having trouble in some of these 5-set matches. Got to get a match tonight and then go on the road for a couple of matches as you go down to Lubbock to play Texas Tech on the 8th and up to Manhattan, Kansas on the 12th. So hopefully they can finish strong, get into the Big 12 tournament. And so get out and support our women's volleyball team at the Horsch family facility. It's a great facility to watch games in. Get a couple thousand people in there, and it's pretty loud. They do the end game experience is great with the music and everything. I bring my girls up to games all the time, and it is a lot of fun. So get up and support Ray Bouchard and our volleyball team. Obviously, basketball is on the tip of everyone's tongue right now. Just had a game a couple days ago against the Washburn Ichabods, and my takeaway from that was your typical exhibition game. Played with a lot of energy in the first half, established a big lead, and then it was just a death march in that second half. There was 10 fouls called in the first 3 minutes, and it was one of those sloppy halves that happens in games like that. But I think the positives that you take away is the fact that we didn't, I've been to a lot of practices, and I've seen what Cliff Alexander can do, and he's the true example of a guy who is a game guy. I mean, he came out there and was just electric. He's got size, he's got length, he's got passion, and man, once he learns how to play, he's going to be so good. And unfortunately, we may not see him for very long because he's got the ability to dominate the paint.
Greg, you mentioned Cliff, and I think as a fan of basketball, I think the last couple years I've been kind of looking for that guy that has that football mentality. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Cliff, first game in Allen, exhibition game, comes out 14 points, 9 rebounds, 3 blocks. It seems like he was swatting at absolutely everything that went on.
And that was only in 17 minutes of play,
which is unbelievable. He's kind of a bulldog in there, and it's entertaining to see. And what's your take on him?
Well, you're right. I don't think we've had that guy. I mean, Tark Black last year was kind of that way, and he only got a year in the program because he was older and all that. But he struggled with fouls, and I think Cliff's going to struggle with fouls because he is so aggressive and he does swat at everything. And it's one thing to do that against Washburn. No offense to the Ichabods, but it's another thing to do it. We'll find out for sure we'll get a really good gauge. 2 weeks from, November 18th, we play Kentucky. That's coming up. They've got, I think Bill said they have 6 guys that are bigger than our biggest guy. I mean, they have some length.
They have 2 7-footers down low.
That start. So we're going to get a real, we're not going to find out a whole lot against Washburn, against Emporia State. Now, Santa Barbara, they come in next Friday. They're pretty good. They got all 5 guys back. They play a little zone. Bill Self teams have never played great against zone. Not many guys run zone, but Santa Barbara definitely does, and so that'll be something different. And we got a young team. We look at the guys on Monday night, and who are the 3 guys that really didn't show up? Our 3 team leaders: Jamari Traylor, Perry Ellis, and Wayne Selden. They had games that they'd like to forget. They didn't play great, but I tell you who did play well was Frank Mason, Cliff Alexander. Landon Lucas, I thought, had a very nice game. Landon's kind of been a guy that's hung out in the back. He redshirted, then he didn't get to play much. He's playing behind guys like Perry Ellis and Joel Embiid that you're not going to get a lot of minutes. But I think there's an opportunity for a guy like Landon that plays so hard and plays so physical to get some significant minutes this year.
Greg, I think one of the big questions a lot of our listeners have is how in the heck do you pronounce Svi's name? Maybe for the listeners, you could, in a little bit of slow motion, pronounce that for everybody.
Okay. Sviatoslav Mikhailuk. It's pretty easy.
Everybody have
that? I work
that?
on it every night at dinner. My wife and my kids and I say it. You're supposed to say a word like 7 times and you'll know it. So we've been doing that for a couple months. And now the easy way to do it is Svi. Just say Svi. It's so much easier.
He was one guy that I thought, I hadn't been able to sneak into practice yet and watch him play, but he's a pretty good sized kid. He has a pretty good stroke on him. I mean, it seems like he's.
We're going to all use the excuses, and there's no way around it. The kid is 17 years old. A 17-year-old is roughly a junior in high school. He is now playing against men that are 2 years. The youngest guys on our teams are a year and a half older than him. So it's going to be an eye opener. Now he comes from a place that's the Ukraine's not the easiest place in the world to grow up, and he's played against men as of late. He's on the Ukraine national team, so he's got a little toughness to him. But physically and mentally, he needs to mature, and that's not a knock on Svi at all. But I really like he's got a high level basketball IQ. He knows his way around the court. He's a good passer. He had some butterflies the other night, and no matter who you are and who you've played against or with, it's intimidating to play in Allen Fieldhouse at 16,000 plus, and if you're young, that's going to get you. And it got him a little bit the other night, but he hit a couple shots, and it's going to be a progression for him. And this is a deep team. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the departure of Connor Frankamp. That was a surprise, a shock to me, to Bill, to his teammates, to everybody. And all we'll say on that is he made a decision, and you're an adult, he makes a decision. It didn't think it was going to work out for him and what his family thought he should be. And so he's going to go try to do that somewhere else. We don't know where yet. Again, it was frustrating because I really like Connor. I think I'm a Kansas kid. I like to see Kansas kids come here and play, and that's definitely a blow. And I wish him well. I know that the entire basketball staff wishes him well because, again, he is a good kid and he is a really good player. And the crazy thing is he was going to play a lot, but he wanted to play a certain role, and it wasn't amount of minutes. It was, is he going to be the focal point of the offense? And it's pretty obvious that with the kind of kids that we recruit year in and year out, that he wasn't going to be that guy. And so they decided to make a move, and he's going to be tough to replace. There's no question about it. He provided depth. He provided the ability to be that guy and against his own, against whoever, because he could really shoot the basketball. And it's going to, on the positive side, it's going to open up minutes for guys like Brandon Green. And, you look at that position with Sviatoslav, Brandon, Wayne Selden, and Kelly Oubre. There's 4 guys for 2 spots. it was going to be 5 guys for 2 spots. So that makes, to a degree, it makes Bill's job a little bit easier.
Greg, who's your surprise this year on the team? Who do you think is one of the guys that's really going to step up and help with team cohesion and get these guys to the next level? Is there a?
I don't think it's a surprise, but a guy that I'm a big fan of is Wayne Selden. Wayne was a guy last year who was kind of overshadowed by Wiggs because, I mean, Wayne Selden was a McDonald's All-American. A lot of people had him as a one-and-done type of guy. He was injured, and I think the reason, in answer to your question, is he's going to surprise people just because he's so much more athletic than what people saw last year. He had a bad knee injury, and he powered through it. He toughed it out. He didn't bitch and moan at all. He came out and he just played. And his play suffered to a degree just because a big part of his game is his athleticism and his strength, and that was taken away from him. So again, it's probably not surprise necessarily because he is a McDonald's All-American and he is going to play in the NBA. But I look for Wayne to be a team leader and an all-Big 12 type of performer this year.
We'll talk a little bit about what the Williams Fund's been doing this week. We've had quite a few round ball events with Coach Self and another charity we give to the Assist Foundation for all these events. And a lot of our student athletes in men's basketball go out and find families that don't have the opportunity to maybe celebrate a Christmas like the rest of us, and all proceeds from these from all 3 events will go towards getting gifts and things for these individuals. So it really is a good cause and something that we do annually, and it was pretty neat. Greg, maybe you can talk a little bit about it. When we were in Wichita yesterday, a pretty darn good women's basketball player showed up.
We had a surprise guest. Lynette Woodard joined us yesterday, and Bonnie Hendrickson read through her list of accomplishments that took up an entire sheet of paper. And if you've never really looked at her career, it was unbelievable. You know, there was over 3,600 career points here at Kansas. Led the team in rebounding, pretty much every category. First woman to ever play on the Harlem Globetrotters, and Basketball Hall of Fame. You can go down the list, and it was really cool to have her there. But we just had an event in Topeka today. We got Kansas City tomorrow, and it's an opportunity for Bill and Bonnie to get out and talk to different groups. And like Banks said, they raise money for kind of a deal here in Lawrence, Kansas. They adopted 36 families that don't have the ability to have the type of Christmas that we do, and all the players go out to Walmart, and it's kind of it is true. Sometimes in charitable giving, the guys get more out of it than the families, and it's good for them to see it. And it's something that Coach does and matches all the funds that are raised for local charities.
Well, there you have it. There's a lot of good stuff going on within our athletic department right now. We'll continue to do this once a month to kind of give everybody updates on what's going on. But we hope to see you out there this Saturday as we take on the Cyclones from Iowa State, and cheering on our team and fill the stadium. And you can follow us on Twitter. Our handle is @WilliamsFund. Rock Chalk.